Are 15-minute cities feasible? Some urban planners say they pave the way to a cleaner, greener future. But distractors claim they threaten our personal freedom with a Hunger Games-style plan to control the population. From poorly communicated rollouts to viral online conspiracy theories, why has a simple city planning concept become a disinformation nightmare? It's not a new concept or even a complicated one. Live in a location that is a 15-minute walk or cycle away from everything you need. This will, in theory, improve your quality of life, reduce pollution with fewer cars on the road, and boost your local economy. But somewhere along the line, the innocuous-sounding plan took a dark twist. There is now a belief that this is a way for governments to control people. The narrative has caused confusion, disinformation, and some real action to prevent the plans from going forward. So is there any truth to the fears of 15-minute cities? Here's a look.
Around 55% of the world's population lives in cities. By 2050, about 70% of people will be living in urban areas. And as that number increases, so too do the problems. Air pollution kills millions every year. Most people are traveling long distances even for their basic needs, often stuck in traffic or packed into crowded trains and buses.
To my melanin family and spiritually conscious brothers and sisters around the world, I am Brother Tommy. And it is time to get it in. On Love Family. This video going to discuss 15-minute cities, what they are and who is planning them. History is a great teacher. In studying it, you learn what works, what does not work and how to correct the failures. Or so you hope. Do you remember anything about the old coal mine towns, or the old railroad towns popping up along the rail lines, or the frontier towns built way out in nowhere? You should. All major cities as well as towns began that way, and many have failed and disappeared along the way. Many towns are renowned for their origins in corporate origination, for example, Hershey, Pennsylvania, Pullman, Illinois and Henry Ford's Alberta, Michigan. They were all formed as towns that were self-supporting, and many were also designed or located to keep its occupants inside certain limits because the mines or lumber or other owners did not want the workers to leave, as it would harm the company's production and therefore profits. Civilization itself can be traced back to the idea that to even live, people needed to band together to help each other supply food, build shelter, educate the people in warfare and in cleanliness, among so many other things, involve other families to help negate interbreeding, and so on. The point is that they were self-sufficient as far as they could be, perhaps trading with neighboring villages and swapping possible mates, whether through joint religious or trading wheat for apples or rabbit hides for flint arrow points. The main point is that to thrive they needed wider and wider access to other products, cultures and opportunities. Those that did move around did not thrive, but died off. Keep this concept in mind. We could go into a huge discussion of the development of those villages into cities and into the causes and reasons of urbanization, but that is beyond this column's reach for now. Let's just say that the move from rural to urban centers of population is way past the break-even point, with urbanization having far surpassed the rural, and even the suburban home numbers are falling as those homes are being destroyed to make way for yet larger massive high-density housing and associated infrastructure. Historically, the way out of this has been war and natural disaster, including pestilence and famine, which seem to go together all too often. Ostensibly, the reason that the World Economic Forum has been pushing the 15-minute city idea is to bring us back to those smaller self-sufficient groupings of families, or the so-called "it takes a village" concept. On the simplest surface level that might seem to be a good option, go back to what works best. But things are not what they seem. On the World Economic Forum's website, a simple search indicates there are about 6,380 pages referencing smart cities and about 1,330 results on a 15-minute city search. Those two concepts are not mutually exclusive, but rather are joined at the hip in many various ways. Much can be learned by perusing those articles, but we will not do so other than a few references here and there, as there is so much glorious propaganda and doublespeak that makes them look like the end-all for human existence from here on out. One such example is a white paper titled "Governing Smart Cities: Policy Benchmarks for Ethical and Responsible Smart City Development," published in July 2021, where they open up and give the reasons behind them. The pandemic has underscored the importance of resilience in societies across the world. The crisis has seen cities, in developed and developing nations alike, reaching for data and tools to get real-time intelligence and make targeted interventions to save lives. Digital tools are a step towards realizing the smart city that technologists have been anticipating for years. Please note this phrase from that white paper: data and tools to get real-time intelligence and make targeted interventions. That is the real purpose of smart cities, to deprive you of any privacy and monitor your every move, thought and actions. To accommodate all of that data, they have instituted 5G wireless communications to facilitate its disbursement to the authorities that claim to require it for enactment of whatever ideas are in their evil little minds. Smart homes, smart cars, smartphones, completely integrated with all of your medical, financial, educational, family and friends associations, who you speak with, what you say, where you go, how you eat, how you use the restroom. Ever heard of smart toilets? How and what you peruse on the internet, what movies you watch, what music you listen to, what political policies you like or dislike and how you vote, and so much more, including what you may be doing to avoid detection. Digital monies, cell phone tracking systems, the ability to turn the phone's camera and mic on at any time remotely is already a common practice, and they can detect where you are and who you are with using those devices. Not to mention, for those that use burner phones to try to avoid such spying, they also have voice and facial recognition, as well as spy balloons hovering over the U.S., as well as spy aircraft, both civil and government, circling over many parts of the U.S. where they think persons of interest may be. So just what do smart cities have to do with 15-minute cities, you might rightfully ask? Great question. Please allow me to give some mumbled answer if I may. How, you may ask, can they better control where and with whom do you associate? How can they make it easier to keep track of so many billions of people worldwide and not plug up the data links with so many items, and to better control what they allow you to do based on the decisions that the AI computers that go over such vast quantities of data? Another great question that deserves some discussion. But first, just what are those 15-minute cities we are referring to? Most media outlets decry any malevolence or conspiracy concerning the subject. The hottest conspiracy theory of 2023 comes from an unlikely corner: town planning. This relates to the idea of the 15-minute city, and has even gone so far as to be mentioned in UK Parliament by an MP who called the idea an international socialist concept that will cost us our personal freedom, and the 15-minute city itself is a simple idea. If you live in one, it means that everything you need to go about your daily life, school, doctors, shops, and so on, is located no more than a 15-minute walk from your house. Sounds all well and good, but that is not the truth, but is what the World Economic Forum and other secret societies push as their propaganda to get you to happily subsist in one. Are there presently any 15-minute cities around? Well, sort of is an accurate answer, but they are really trying hard to become so. Many cities claim they are converting into them, and so it may be best to show an example, so let's look at one to better understand how it actually works. iNews in the UK said the term was coined by Paris-based urbanist Carlos Moreno in 2016 and has since become hugely popular amongst academics and urban planners as a way to reduce dependency on vehicles and lower carbon emissions. As side note, Paris is transitioning into one as fast as they can figure out how to do so, and the mayor of Paris, Anne Hidalgo, was among the first to seize the idea when she promised to implement the policy within the French capital as part of her mayoral election campaign in 2020. Continuing with that iNews report on Oxford pushing to become fully compatible with the concept, most people associate 15-minute neighborhoods with the introduction of ultra-low emission zones and low traffic neighborhoods (LTNs), which place restrictions on how cars can move about a city. The salient points to make note of are ultra-low emission zones and low traffic neighborhoods (LTNs), which place restrictions on how cars can move about a city and limit traffic traveling between neighborhoods. Please note the bollards being placed to stop traffic between neighborhoods, and then consider what if you needed to visit your aging mother to tend to her needs, and you are forbidden to go there. What if your children's school happens to cross such barriers and you are forbidden to go meet them and drive, or even walk them home? They have placed barriers already in Oxford as well as other cities around the world, and people must drive far out of their way to get to the ring roads to access places they must get to in an adjoining neighborhood, causing far more fuel burned and pollution that negates their claimed benefits, let alone tyrannical controls that destroy society, let alone families. Many call 15-minute cities World Economic Forum ghettos, as that is just what they are. As an example of city planning that will result in a brand new 15-minute city, the old Utah State Prison site at what is called the Point of the Mountain, where the Salt Lake County Valley meets the Utah County Valley, has been designated by the people doing the project. Developers, state and county personnel, have decided that the area will become a new from-scratch hellhole, 15-minute city. An architecture website called Arch Daily almost a year ago had an article titled "Rising from the Desert, A 15-minute city is coming to Utah, where they said, 15-minute cities are a trending urban planning topic that has long been discussed academically and is now slowly being implemented across existing cities in Europe. But now, the first 15-minute city is being designed and built from scratch in Utah. Dubbed The Point, the new 600-acre city will be located just outside Salt Lake City, and will be a redeveloped former state prison site where new jobs, housing, public spaces, amenities, and transportation will serve almost 15,000 people in an attempt to explore a prototype for how innovative urban planning concepts can improve the public health and wellness. Located just west of I-15 and including community gardens, a central park, connections to the Jordan River Trail, commercial as well as high-density housing, access to public transportation like the high-speed commuter rail, and an iconic community that focuses on healthy living while also creating new jobs and housing that will allow residents to live, work, and play in the same area. By designing for ease of mobility, creating an 18-hour district where there are things to do for a majority of the day, and the right combination of new residential types, office space, and supporting infrastructure, the goal is to be a pioneer in how new cities can be built across the United States in the future. That sounds to me to be a utopian nightmare of tyrannical proportions based on the so-called European model that promises to make the worst HOAs look like primary daycare parties. Limited access to cars, only one allowed per family or housing unit, and none inside the prison. I meant planned city. Sorry that I slipped and called the old prison site a prison, must be something I ate. But the idea is sound, as it is like an open-air house arrest, a prison without iron-barred windows and electronic monitors of a more modern sort rather than ankle chains or arrest-at-home ankle monitors. Yes, it is planned as a full-on smart city. The renderings make it appear like the rainbow-leaping unicorn haven as seen on so many Star Trek future city concepts. They also remind me of the all-but-empty Chinese ghost cities that are very near to what the new smart 15-minute cities will be like. Consider that the absolute monitoring systems China already has, and the plans now being implemented nationwide here at home, and the comparison with those Chinese cities is even more applicable and frightening. The general concept of the thing is like a quarantine program for neighborhoods that they tried to do with the pandemic that destroyed so many lives, businesses and liberties. A World Economic Forum wet dream in action. In Bloomberg a couple years ago, there are dangers of applying a model conceived in Europe to many North American cities, some urban experts warn. Transplanting the 15-minute city template across the Atlantic could be presumptive and colonial, said Toronto-based urban designer and thinker Jay Pitter at the City Lab 2021 conference, hosted by Bloomberg Philanthropies and the Aspen Institute. I'm a champion of the hyperlocal, as certainly we need more resilient, climate change-resistant cities, said Pitter, who works on public space designs in a number of U.S. cities. However, I am averse to this concept. It doesn't take into account the histories of urban inequity, intentionally imposed by technocratic and colonial planning approaches, such as segregated neighborhoods, deep amenity inequity and discriminatory policing of our public spaces. Note the idiocy of canceling the current word salad of inequity and the implementation of the concept from a liberal planner that otherwise loves the concept of 15-minute cities. What we see already within marginalized communities is resistance to things that are actually really wonderful and beneficial, like more walkability or bike lanes. The reason we see this resistance is because these kinds of approaches, while good for us and the environment, also often spur gentrification. And so communities are very nervous about that. So it would seem that the idea may, in some respects, be contradictory to the whole idea of forcing those not ready for higher class lining and leadership and other things into society's lead, as is the current leftist trend of anyone but white, straight Christian men that is destroying any competence, credibility and rational leadership in our current dire straits. I suppose the World Economic Forum had a brief glimpse of reality when they said 15-minute communities do little to alter the harsh realities of economic and geographic inequality. They promise close-by amenities and luxurious walkability for the well-to-do urban gentry. They are mainly a fit for affluent urban neighborhoods and far less a fit in the disadvantaged parts of our cities. As Harvard University's Ed Glazer points out, less advantaged groups are hardly able to live their life in their own disadvantaged neighborhoods, which lack jobs, grocery stores and amenities found in more upscale communities. Too bad they did not consider that a bit more seriously. And as Oxford claims that part of the reason for their 15-minute prison is to trial climate lockdowns in 2024 using the 15-minute city concept, which is intimately tied to sustainability and climate goals, I believe we are getting a bit closer to the more immediate goal, to eliminate our independent mobility and force us into virtual slavery and closer to what popular mechanics called them human jails, or as the Rare Foundation called those inside of them, prisoner of the state. The Telegraph in the UK said of them, gone back to feudalism. Barry Obama called it building back better, and that is a fine euphemism for the destruction of our nation's strength, the liberty and freedom that the United States was built upon. To sum it all up, perhaps this is what you should remember. SDGs, Sustainable Development Goals. ESG, environmental, social and governance. C40 cities, cities designed to fight climate change, or build back better. Smart cities, full government control of everything. 15-minute cities, the culmination of all of the above. Thanks for listening, family. Please like the video and subscribe to the channel. Until the next video. Peace.